Welcome to the Great Plains Gravel Cup, powered by the SufferSooner podcast. If you're into riding gravel or just love a good challenge, you're in the right place. This is where we bring you all the gritty details from the world of gravel racing across Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska. We'll be covering 6 premier events, including Flint Hills, Open Range, Mule Skinner, Rock Ridge, Solstice, and Pony Express. All gravel, all awesome. Each episode will bring you stories from the leaders, race directors, first-timers, and some truly epic moments from these events. So buckle up and join us as we explore the heart of the gravel world. One race at a time. All right, guys, welcome to the post-race of Flint Hills and the Gravel Cup Series. We're here joined with Bobby, the mastermind behind this whole thing. So this is his race, and he's the race director for Flint Hills, and he's also the brains behind the Gravel Cup Series. So welcome again, Bobby. Thanks for coming on, and glad to have you on. Me and Danny were fortunate enough to do the adventure. It's a cue card only race.
Yeah.
It was challenging, and
Did it live up to its name? Was it the adventure?
it was an adventure. I think we did have some adventure. There's one road, Bobby, out there that it's like Dunlap docking road.
Yeah.
It was chunky gravel, and it was like 4 miles long into the headwind. If I ever see that road again, I'm just gonna call you and tell you to come.
Can we get the live transcript or replay of what you were saying about Bobby on that road?
If that road went on for another half mile, I was done. It was.
Bobby, I don't want to repeat. This is a family show. I can't repeat what he was saying, and he had all kinds of names for you, but it wasn't just Bobby. I could just tell you that.
Yeah,
but it's all good.
But other than that, we went on some. The adventure lived up to its name. It had some really good roads. There was some good, really MMR roads out there. They weren't like muddy or sandy. Mm-hmm. I think there was like one muddy section, probably, like around mile 70. It was just after that second little water stop. And it was just like tractor went through there, tore it all up. And then there was just the only rideable part was, through kind of the wet, muddy, like the trough section of it. Yeah. So I was just like, I'm going to walk, and then just walked it. And then I didn't want to risk like having a mechanical and then be like, hey, can you send somebody out to pick me up? I'll give them money.
I know exactly what you're talking about now. And that, I think if that truly got muddy, it would get really peanut butter really fast. That whole road. Yeah, definitely. My Jeep crew, the guy who was at the feed stop right before that one, had not driven that road yet. Just that individual hadn't driven the road. And he said, "Yeah, we're not going to go down there. we're not taking the vehicle down that one." So,
yeah, and that wasn't even too long of a section. That was the thing. Like the course, I think had like just the right amount of MMR roads. Like you want to have those because to me they're a lot of fun. They're not super technical usually, but especially on a bike. But I mean they're like with races like Unbound and some of the others, like they get a little out of control with the MMRs, and you're like, okay, like I've had enough MMR. But I would say you had a good mix on this course with like balancing, not just the length of the road, but then just the timing of it. Didn't feel like you were constantly turning on to an MMR and just like being brutal just for the sake of being brutal. It was
fast, smooth gravel, MMR, fast, smooth gravel, MMR, fast, smooth gravel, MMR. And then at the latter half, it was like, I think we only had like one road that was, what was it?
My favorite was the vacant road.
Yeah, the vacant road.
Yeah,
the vacant road.
Yeah, the vacant road. And that's where I thought you were talking about that road never dries, or that little creek thingy there. Well, it never dries. So
that's good stuff.
That was fine. That one was, I was like, oh, this is okay. This road's
okay. It was refreshing. Yeah. Actually, that's like the time I welcomed a creek crossing because like it was starting to get a little warm. I'm like, this is great. So it's good stuff. But no, it was a great course. All in all, it was a great time. I'm told it was really beautiful. I don't really see much of it. I don't remember it because I was in such a haze, and we're going to cover that in our own post race later on. But I was not having a good nutrition day.
Yeah,
it was.
I had a great time. I thought it was great.
Listen to you. All right, so getting back into the race itself. So for the Gravel Cup, it was the 80-mile race that was the one
challenge.
that counted, the challenge.
Yep, that's for all the marbles.
Yeah.
Well,
So
the
tell
challenge
us.
and the adventure counted, but the challenge was the premier, the
Got
40
it.
point max race. That is
Yep.
correct.
That's it.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
adventure was a 25-point max, and the reason I had to do that on the two events that I own, Flint Hills Gravel of the series and Rock Ridge Gravel, are the only two events where the maximum point distance is actually the shorter course, the 85 for Flint Hills and the Rock Ridge for the 75. And the reason is that what you just talked about was on the adventure. I don't want 200 people out on the adventure reading cue cards all day long trying to race. We would spend the entire day tracking people down. And with Rock Ridge, the long distance is through the night, and same thing. It's just a whole different beast to try to support 150 riders from nighttime until morning. So yeah, the 85 was the beast, and it was fun. I mean, they there was I haven't heard all the stories yet, but I know that the group at the front was 4 or 5 strong for pretty much the entire race, and it was a legitimate photo finish coming across the line. If you look at the gun times on it, I think 3 of them had the same time, and the one who won it was 1 second in front of those 3. It was a lot of fun. That part of it was fun to watch unfold. We went through the 85 in 2 different places, kind of went through small towns, just real briefly, but through a couple of streets of the small town. In my head, I thought, hey, this would be a great kind of crit race scene and stuff. So I had a photographer there. It was not a crit race scene. It was like they were just having fun riding through the town together, looking at the older buildings, and stuff. So,
Yep.
but it unfolded well. And we had in the challenge, we had about 260 people in that
That's
event.
awesome.
So
Yes. So, have you ever had a photo finish at one of your races like this? Because like that sounds like excitement on steroids right there. Like a bunch sprint at the end.
Yeah,
I mean,
bunch sprint at the very
yeah,
end.
not a true where you had to go back and look at the photo. We've
yeah,
had very close finishes, but usually they can get a second gap on it on the
hmm,
timer. But no, not a true photo finish like this. So
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. I mean, that's the stuff like you love to see if you're sitting there watching at the watching people cross the finish line. You see this big group coming in. So
Yeah.
that sounds like a great time. So how? Well, just curious on that. How does that work then for the photo finish? Like I think because you got the chip time and then you got the wheel crossing the finish line. So how did you guys did it come down to like that type of discrepancy, or was it clear enough that you were able to?
no, I
I'm
mean
curious.
the good thing is, you know, all these events are still independently owned events, and so there's not
Yeah,
like there's a grand
we're all
body,
amateurs. Yeah,
right? There's not a grand body sanctioning that you must use this rule at your event. And
right.
what I decided was, I mean, it all is based on, like you say, a timing chip that's
Hmm.
on a bib card on your
Hmm.
Yep.
bike. Um, and 3 had the exact same time. So we
Yeah,
went back through and we used the front wheel to determine
yeah,
of those 3 who came across the line first, rather
yeah,
than where they arbitrarily decided to put a bib card on their bike. Because the one thing we don't want to happen for our timers is, and it is very true, if you start going around and taping your timing strip at an
yeah,
angle trying to get it around the top tube or whatever, it can ruin the timing of the device. So
yeah.
I'm not going to fault you for putting it out on a cable or something like that in the race to make it easier to read for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because I was just thinking, next time I want to beat Travis, I'll just put it like on a 6 foot pole out in front of the
Exactly.
bike, and then
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I raced tandem with a friend for a couple of races, and I told him I'm always going to beat you because my bib's on the front of the bike and your bib's in the middle of the
yes,
bike, so I'm always
that's
going to
right.
win.
There
Yeah.
you go. That's good.
So
That's good.
good. Yeah. So the course looked like you guys went a little south, came back but north, and then went a little bit north of Americus, and then finally back into the headwind and stuff back on the
I'm gonna,
80, right?
yeah, and I'll back up for a minute. I mean, when I say, you got to remember, my brain's a little fried right now,
Yeah. No
and
worries. This is
we have that
happening like
video.
right after.
We have that video of that photo finish, which was
Yep.
the men's category,
Yep.
but we also had a sprint finish for the women's category.
Get out
of here. Wow.
Hannah came in just 1 second over Taylor, or over Trisha. Sorry, Trisha. Love you, Trisha. Over Trisha. So, I mean, it was 3 seconds, but they sprinted down the concrete together down the main strip. So it was
awesome.
competitive across. And I talked to Trisha afterwards and Hannah, and they're very excited because this is going to be a season-long, drawn-out battle between the two of them. And then we also have Catherine in there, we have Haley in there, we have Paulina in there. They were all really close to each other, so it's going to be fun to watch this go out across all the categories. I haven't dove into like masters, and I haven't dove into the single speed. I mean, you're not going to have close finishes in those categories just because you don't know who you're riding with. You don't know if the dude's 49 years old or 50 years old until afterwards. But I think for the main categories, it'll be a lot of fun to watch this year.
Yep.
Well, I mean, it's a good start to have two sprint finishes in the first race. So yes. I have to think. I mean, open range in a couple of weeks is going to be nuts.
Yeah,
it's going to be absolutely nuts.
It's going to be crazy. And I talked to a few of the women finishers, and they hadn't been to open range yet, and they're like, "This is going to test. This is going to test.
This is going to test everybody."
It's so much sand there. I mean, and then bless his heart, Eric. He always has that 20-mile-per-hour headwind for like 30 miles. It seems like coming back. Yep. What is that? Medicine Lodge, I think, is down there.
Yep.
So it'll be
it's good. I think I was telling Danny, when we were out on the adventure and we had 30-mile-an-hour winds. I was like, this is basically like open range is what it's like out there, and we'll see who can handle it for that long. It's going to be one of those things where, it's the headwind is pretty demoralizing out there because it's exposed. And if we have one from the south, that's great because you get to finish, you get to get pushed home. If it's coming from the north, you're going to be bucking it all the way back. So
and as far as the series, they kind of got a gauntlet that they're getting ready to go through. I mean, this weekend is kind of a weekend off, but then you have open range. And then locally, most of those riders ride Le Grind here in Emporia, which is not part of the series, but it's right there. And that's a 2-day independent little stage race on its own. And then you jump from that and you go straight to Mule Skinner, which is part of this series. So you have 3 weekends that could be wearing a person down. So it'll be fun to watch, see how that plays out.
Yeah. I was going to say, I mean, this all really shapes up nicely because, I mean, open range is going to kind of, I think it'll force some type of a split in the standings because you're going to have the dynamics of the course itself, plus, to your point, Travis, the headwind or tailwind, because, I mean, that's a major factor in your course time if that wind's coming out of the north or out of the south.
Yep.
So much different situation when you got to come home into a headwind. So,
yes.
But then to your point, Bobby, setting all that up with Le Grind in between and then Mule Skinner could be an interesting race to kind of set up for the last 3 of the season because I mean Mule Skinner is going to really force, I think, some possible separation in the standings, or maybe not. Maybe it tightens everything up and it goes from like 3 contenders to 6 contenders, something like that. I mean, it's going to be wild to see.
Well, and it's a little bit different than all the other in that the main. Well, there is only one points race in that event, and that's a 65 miler. I think it's usually 65 miler. So in the terms of a lot of people, that's a 65-mile sprint versus.
That's right.
It's full gas from the gun.
Full gas, right? And there are some. Well, there's one hill in particular that most of us don't ride up. I mean, it's steep enough, and at the very end of the race, that we're all exhausted. So there's punchy stuff in there, and there's really fast, flowy stuff there. So, like you say, it's a different skill set than the other ones. Whereas open range is a knockout punch fest. It's forever out there in the sand and stuff, and then you turn around to Mule Skinner and just go.
That's right. Yeah, and I think having a 65-mile race mixed in there, I mean, because you think about it, a lot of these, you think the longer distance, well, that must be the more premier distance, but it's, I tell you, those 65 miles are no joke. We got caught up in a bike race last year out at Le Grind. I'm still hurting from that 65-mile sprint. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just
it was
wild.
it was on. We had it on.
Full gas.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's what's awesome about the whole series too. Again, we talk about the people that want to race it, and it's like, you know, if Flint Hills turned out and you didn't have your best day, like I didn't, but you didn't have your best day, then that's okay, because there's still enough dynamics left in the remaining races that anything's going to happen here. I mean, you know, you're sitting on top, you're probably feeling pretty good, but if you're sitting in the top 10, you're doing just fine.
Yep.
Heck, maybe even the top 20.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, 100%.
yeah. So after Mule Skinner, it goes into Solstice, Rock Ridge, and then Pony Express, right? So and and we're gonna have plenty of time to break down those races. But I think as you kind of look at how it shapes up over the next month or so, this series is gonna get really, really tight.
Yep.
Quick. So,
real hot.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's good.
Yeah, it'll be fun, that little gap between Mule Skinner and Solstice. It'll be fun to sit back, and then you can do all the analysis and play with all the numbers and excuse me, because then you move from spring, cooler temperatures, rainy temperatures, and then you go into the heat of the summer with back to back Solstice Rock Ridge.
Yep.
No gaps in between. So, and then you get a little breather back again until the fall. So it's kind of cool that it goes through those 3 seasons. I purposely, there's no winter races here. It's too cold.
No.
I mean,
It's too cold.
maybe we'll throw in a Zwift race next time, but that'd be about it. So for me,
Yeah.
So no, yeah,
That's
I mean, you have so many different dynamics, and so you can take a breather after Mule Skinner and kind of gather yourself, go do your Unbound and blow yourself up there, and then get ready for the other ones. So.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what, all the fitness that people are going to gain from these first 3 races, they're going to be ready for Solstice. They're going to be nice and recovered, and the fitness, the super compensation is going to be real.
Yep.
So,
That's great.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's go over the open winners, right?
Okay.
So we had Hannah Glatter.
Glatter.
Yep. Trisha Luke, Courtney Smith. So that's our female podium, and we'll splice in some pictures of them.
Sweet.
And then we have our men's open category is Owen Erdmans.
Yep. Edmonds. Yep.
If I'm butchering your name and you're listening to this, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So
let the dyslexic guy.
Yeah.
Actually, Owen won that day, and then the very next day he went out and did the Bizarre Road Race. So Sunday, and he won that one also.
Oh my gosh, tearing it up.
So he's tearing it up right now, young man.
Yeah.
Nice. And then Michael Allison and Jacob Schneller,
right.
Yeah, good. All right, I'll let Danny read the next.
Oh no, you got it, man. It's all you. But
so that's our opens category.
You did well.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to get in touch with these guys, and we're gonna have them, hopefully, one of these podium finishers from the men's and the women's, and we're gonna have them on, hopefully next week, and we'll record it this week and then have it airing next week, so we can hear how their season's shaping up and how they're planning on tackling open range and the rest of the stuff. So that'll be good.
Yeah. And going forward, I'll be a little bit faster since this was my own race. And we were talking off camera about all the things that go into being a race director. There's a lot of things I have to get done before I go in and do the deep analysis on the subcategories. But I do have all the subcategories calculated out except for single speed. But I'll hold off on announcing those out of respect for that one. So probably Tuesday. Today's Monday. Today's Monday. So Tuesday, I should have on the website everything updated, all the point spreads across the different subcategories, which are Masters. Help me out. Masters,
single speed,
and U23. So those
U23 and U20 and U18.
Correct, and they'll all be posted here on Tuesday. So
awesome.
Yep. So if you're wondering where you stand in the points, if you did this race and you're wondering where you stand in the points, you can look for that on Tuesday. Hopefully Bobby will have that out for us. If not, give him a little bit of grace. He's super busy doing all this stuff. We did pull him away for about 30 minutes from washing out coolers and unloading trailers,
Oh my gosh, there's so much. I love it, but there's just so much.
Yeah,
I was going to say it. We were talking beforehand. This is sort of the unknown side of race directing. You know, we talked with enough race directors, and like we know all the planning and the prep and everything, but what we always forget to talk about is what does it mean to shut down a race afterwards, and how much work is involved in all the cleanup and getting the start finish line back to the way it was and getting all the equipment put away. So. I do not envy your position, Bobby. It's a tough spot to be in.
There's a lot I'm staring outside down there at a lot of coolers I got to wash out. So. And
we're just thankful.
Those get ugly really fast. If you don't.
I was going to say, we're just thankful you do wash them out, because when Rock Ridge comes around, I don't think I want anything to do with that one.
So yeah, I'll get all that stuff out tomorrow and post it on the main webpage. I'm super excited about how the series is going to go this year. As it goes on, you know, I'll get more efficient about getting the info out, and as it goes on, I'll get better about posting on social media updates and stuff. This weekend is just kind of everything thrown into one set for me. So
it's good, and I think that's, you know, part of, I think, bringing light to of what you do is just showing that, like, hey man, this is a one-man crew right now doing stuff. I mean, I'm sure you have some helpers and stuff, but it's pretty much just you organizing stuff, getting stuff done, getting stuff cleaned out, you know, getting stuff put back together, and then getting ready for the next event. So, you know, we just really appreciate the time and the events and all that stuff. So yeah, we're just really, really stoked to be definitely a part of it. So
yeah.
I'll make sure I'll let you know how many points you got as soon as I
can. Yeah.
Points. I know I got 3.
How many points do I get for failed nutrition? And
right.
Yeah. So, no, it's great. Well, thanks again, Bobby. Really appreciate everything here. And as you said, I mean, the watching this whole series unfold is going to be a blast, and hope everybody stays tuned as we keep unveiling each of the post-race recaps, but also the pre-race with the race directors.
Yep.
Make sure to tune in for that too.
All right, guys, welcome to the second race, the second stop of the Great Plains Gravel Cup. We're talking with Eric today from Open Range Gravel. This is, I would say, probably me and Danny's favorite race.
Yeah.
In the whole calendar. We heard about it from Eric's friends, Serena, a long time ago, and basically you just can't keep us away now. So,
well, and there's also the motivation, right? Because you got the belt buckle. We found out about the belt buckle last year, and now it's a mission. It has to be done. It's got to get done. So
Eric, how's everything looking for in Pratt, Kansas?
Man, it's looking great. It's looking great. You know, we can always use more moisture, but it's still, we got a little bit of rain down there last week, and that helped. But yeah, it's going to be fantastic.
That's awesome. Are you dialing up the wind for everybody? You got that all set up?
The fans are turned on. They're getting warmed up. There should be, it wouldn't be an open range race without a good north wind. So we'll see what we can do.
Well, I hope this year we get to avoid the tornado threats, because last year, although I will say it was a ton of motivation for us to just pedal as hard as we possibly could to get to the south end of the course.
And I was talking with one of our volunteers from last year just a couple of days ago, and he was down there at Medicine Lodge, and he had called me during the race and had told me, he's like, it's getting close. I think it's gonna hit here, and it's like, it's just a couple of miles out. And so as people were filtering back in, I kept asking, did you get rain? He's like, they're like, no, it just sprinkled a little bit, but it was, man, it was pouring to the east.
So. Yeah. When we were coming across that southern section, we just were watching that black
the wall
cloud of just going across. And I was like, oh man, I hope it just stays more and more east. And we just got a few drops. And then other than that, that was it. So,
Right.
But yeah, I like this course. We were talking about it before, is that, the course kind of generally stays the same.
Mm-hmm.
You do have some sections that change, every couple of years. You guys change it going through the farm, or the cow land that's that's owned by what's his name,
Red Hills Rancher.
Red Hills Rancher.
Yeah, right.
So he lets you go through there and picks different routes and stuff. So it's kind of good that most of the route stays the same. And me and Danny are always talking about it. It's kind of nice having those routes that stay the same, but the environmental factors of what you playing against. It could be rainy, could be windy, could be calm,
could be a tornado,
could be a tornado.
So the other thing is, fun fact, there's an episode that's about a year ago right now, I want to say, where we previewed the race last year. And so if anybody wants to go back and listen to that and get all the details of kind of how Eric, how you thought to start this race and the massive community involvement, before we get too much further into this, maybe just remind everybody like how awesome this is from a community standpoint and some of the good things that you guys do. Because I think it's really important we underscore that, and the fact that you have such an impact in the Pratt area.
Yeah, I appreciate that. First off, I consider Pratt my hometown, even though I'm not a local anymore. I still go back quite often, and I feel like everyone there is still family, still still friends and everything. And that's the great thing about kind of growing up in a small town. So when I decided to put the race together, I looked at Pratt, and I wanted to showcase the Red Hills and Gypsum Hills down there. Mm-hmm. And I just knew that Pratt would be the best place logistically to start that. And then based on the experience I had growing up there. And so, yeah, it's been great. The volunteers we have there, the community involvement has all been fantastic. To date, we've donated about $40,000 to local charities, both in Pratt and Sun City and in Medicine Lodge. So, just getting those people to help out with our checkpoints. It's been fantastic.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's one of the things we're noticing, as we talk to more and more race directors. I don't know any race director that we've talked to that makes a dime off of these things. And I know when we talked about a year ago, we said like anybody's getting into this stuff thinking they're going to get rich off of it, you probably got the wrong idea. And it's awesome because there is actually money that's being made in most of these events if you start getting enough following and you do them year over year. But as we're seeing, I mean, most of this money's getting poured back into the community, and that's what I think is just really awesome about this. Like nobody's getting rich off of this stuff. And I think that's why we want to continue to support as much as we do. And I think that's what makes the grassroots event so much fun. It just really is. So, yeah. So the event itself. So you mentioned, I think before we started, that you don't anticipate too many major changes in the route this year. I am curious though a little bit about the sand, because for anybody who hasn't done this route before, like you don't think about Kansas having like sand pits. Yeah. And of course we'll get to the Gypsum Hills because that's beautiful, but those sand pits, I mean, those things are real. So are you bringing the trucks in to dump more sand?
It is funny. That's, the roads down there are sandy, and it just depends on the amount of moisture we get that week prior to how sandy they will be. Sometimes it's hard packed and it's super smooth. Other times it can get rather loose. But even in the worst years, like the worst spots are still not that bad. People always remember the worst part of something. So if you hear like, oh, the sand's terrible, there's some spots, but it's, I'm a racer myself, or a rider. I don't say racer, but a rider. And I've been to a lot of other races, and I would say our sand is no worse than any other sand that I've been to on some of the other rides.
Well, and the good thing is you don't have miles and miles of like Mudbound was a few years ago when you got just, walking. It's, I mean, I think the worst year we had was sand down there. I want to say it might've been a few hundred yards tops that you had to sort of, ride gently, or even just dismount and run across it real quick and then get back on it. So, but it is a unique feature of the course. And the best part is, you get it both ways. You get it when you go out and when you come back. So I mean, it's like a party on both ends of the deal.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, one time, and I'll even tell you about the sand. Like one time in high school, buddy and I were down, probably not far from where the route goes, and by a community called Elm Mills. And it's like a little resort community down there, and we pulled over to the side of the road for some, I can't even remember why now, and got stuck in the sand. And it's you do have to be careful on the shoulders, but it's it can get you.
Yeah. So you have 2 events for the Gravel Cup. Your main event is the 200, and the other event for the Gravel Cup is the 100.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, thinking about, we'll start with the 100. There's no changes to that route, right? It's all
Correct. Yeah, that'll be pretty much the same.
Okay.
About 35 miles to get to Sun City, and then 35 miles back. So it ends up being just under 70 miles.
Yep. So that's good. It's a relatively fast course, if depending on the wind, and
Right.
so the 200 again is relatively, is a good course. I've yet to ride the 100. I'll ride it after I get my buckle.
Nice. That's what we've already decided. We're going to retire down to the 100 after the buckle is accomplished.
I like it.
But yeah, so thinking about this, like how has the Gravel Cup like impacted you as from your race and your directive, your race directing point of view?
Yeah, the great thing, when Bobby reached out to us, his goal was for us to keep it all still independent races, but to have a kind of a way to reward people for attending these. And so that's been the great part of it, is that, by and large, we're still very independent, but it also allows us to collaborate as race directors as well. And so we've got our own little kind of private group that we can talk to each other, hit each other up on different ideas and topics, and kind of have somebody similar to talk with about issues that we have as race directors. And when he reached out to me and told me the other races, like I've been to all these races, I've ridden in all of them, and I know the people that run them, and so I was pretty happy to join the group and be a part of it. And and there's other great races out there too, and I don't want people to focus just solely on these. But these are a great collection, and it's just the vibe that I've heard from people about this series, and their excitement has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think you said it right. It's not to take away from any of the other events, because there's a ton of great events in the Kansas City area and beyond, right? The whole region. But I will say that if you had to go out and handpick, the 6 events that you were going to go do in a year, these would be right there at the top of any list of 6. And we've already, I mean, we don't need to restate. I don't think we don't need to restate the how awesome this event is to us here. I mean, we love this event. We go do this thing no matter what. I think what's awesome too is the like the registration of your event in general has been extremely high. I mean, you always have great participation. And so I'm curious, like from a participation point of view, like have you seen a bump in registration? Are you seeing a lot more excitement? Is the Gravel Cup, the whole concept of that, is it helping to drive some additional registration from what
Oh
you
yeah.
see?
Yeah, definitely. I was at a race down in Texas a couple weeks ago at Rattlesnake, and ran into a guy from Oklahoma that I had ridden with in one of the Rage Against the Chainring races several years ago, and kind of reestablished a connection with him, and he was talking about it. And so there was, somebody from a state outside of Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma, or Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, that's coming to it, and excited for the series. And his goal is to attend all of them. So
yeah, I think I mean, like I said, we're seeing the local events. From what we're hearing from race directors, yourself included, we're starting to see that registration's pretty stable. That seems like it's in fact, it may even be increasing. We've been picking it at the Lifetime series a little bit here, just in terms of like we're noticing their events aren't selling out quite as much. I mean, with the exception of Unbound and Leadville, of course. And so one of the concerns we had was about the whole registration side of it. But just talking with Bobby a few weeks ago, and now yourself, and obviously we'll have all the other race directors on here. It's looking like things are very healthy in the Midwest when it comes to the gravel scene, and that's great to see. So
definitely, yeah. I think in general, I think the bike industry is kind of taken a small decline in the past couple of years. COVID happened, and it just skyrocketed everything. And whether or not people, it's the natural progression of just kind of getting tired of something and moving on to something else, or what it is. But I think by and large, we've seen a decline in it. However, as far as our race goes, we've not really seen that decline this year. So
yeah,
it's healthy and good.
Yeah. So maybe dive into a little bit of the race itself, like prediction wise. You've got a lot of return riders. So you have any thoughts, like how's the front of the race going to look as it starts to unfold? You think
it's it's going to be spicy. The great thing, what I really like about our course is how dynamic it is. You get out, you have a nice kind of brick road departure from town. You get out on a little bit of the gravel roads, sandy roads, if you want to call them that, and then you go a couple miles, and then you get a nice stretch of pavement, and so that dynamic ability of it right there, that going from in town to gravel to back to some pavement can really separate some of the pack there. So that's always exciting to see. And as a race director, I'm going to try to get out on the course for a little bit at the beginning. It would be, it'd be awesome for these small grassroots races to have complete coverage like they do on some of the bigger races. Cause I think it'd be exciting to watch those packs. I know you guys are up there in those packs sometimes. So, listening to yours
for as long as we can, we hold on until it gets too spicy, and then we're like, this is it.
Yeah, you both do an amazing job, and I've ridden with both of you before, and or tried to, and so and I enjoy hearing your stories about how the race unfolds and everything. So it's going to be. I think it's going to be spicy. We've got, like I said, we've got riders from like 20 states signed up. So
that's great.
Colorado always brings a good group out.
Yeah, that's the guy that won it last year was from Colorado, right?
Yeah.
Won the 200.
So actually, like almost every year has been from Colorado. So
hey, you got to
is that altitude
training,
blood doping that they've been doing up there.
So, I mean, I don't know. I appreciate the kind words, but man, the front of the race last year, I remember we tried to hang on for a while. And I think if I remember right, my saddle, I think I think I hit a bump right after the somewhere in the brick roads, just leaving town. And my saddle like took a nosedive. So I had to go as a roadside adjustment real quick. And then we ended up getting back up to the second group. We could never make that front group was fast.
The front group was gone. Yeah. And the way the wind was working, they wanted to put separation between out of town until you get to that first long stretch of road. And they basically drilled it until then. So.
And I have to think that the Gravel Cup is going to bring a little bit extra motivation for people. I mean, that's the beauty of this thing now is like, I think it's going to change the dynamics of the race especially for the people that really want to go out and race it and be competitive in it. And we talked with Bobby last week, but about the best part of this is that if you're not there for the race, it's still a great time. And that's what I think is really important here is what I remember from your race over the last few years, the first year I did it. I mean, there's still groups that stay together, even if you're going to be out there all day long. I mean, there are plenty of people out there on the course that you can find shelter with, and we'll work together with you. And I'm really good at drafting, so I look for that in a race. It's a really important attribute for me.
Right.
But no, I mean, it's awesome because I know that we talk a lot about the competitive side of this, but I think there's something in it for everybody out there. And if you've never done open range, this is going to be your first time doing it. What would be some of the things that you might tell people? Obviously, the sand is something that will take a lot of people by surprise, but maybe what are some of the things that you found for folks that are first timers trying to go out there and do the course and maybe not realizing they're biting off more than they can chew?
Yeah. The sand and the wind is kind of what we've been known for. So be prepared for that. we all have mentally good days and mentally bad days. Try to make the most of it. You're going to see some areas that are just phenomenal. Places you would never expect to see in Kansas. Even on the 100K course, you're going to see some areas that will completely blow your mind on what Kansas has to offer. Mm-hmm. So make sure if you're in a down area that you're still looking up, looking around, and try to maintain as much positivity as you can. We don't have, there's not a lot of sharp rocks. There is some gravel in places, but by and large the roads are dirt or sand packed. And so, be prepared for that. The ranch sections, if you're on the 200K, can get a little hairy in places. Always ride. You're responsible for your own safety, and always make sure you're riding in a safe manner. But like especially on some of those ranch roads, with what they have there, and then the kind of the crevices and stuff like that. So, there's a checkpoint at 35 miles and a checkpoint at about 80 miles. So that's a long stretch.
Yep.
And depending on the weather, the temperature, like make sure you've got the water. I always recommend you need to have at least 2 bottles and a hydration vest between that stretch, because if you think you can go 50 miles with 2 bottles, that's fine on most conditions, but
not out here.
Not there.
Not out there.
It's not the place to skimp. And
right.
That's the thing too, is that if you're on the competitive side, I mean, you probably already know how to prepare for a lot of those types of things, or you have your own strategies. If you're out there and you maybe this is even your second or third year doing it, but you're just just looking for the added experience. I think the 2 things I took out of what you just said is ride within your limits. I think especially when it comes to those cow pasture sections, and I'll say from experience, I mean, the first year I did it, I remember hitting some of those areas where, I mean, it's dried up. So, I mean, that there's like these, the hoof prints are right there in the, like it is constant jarring. And there's a couple of times, man, I was over my limit. I damn near went over the handlebars. And so you got to watch it. But at the same time, like if look, you're not going to lose the race there, and you're not going to lose your goal time in that section. It's not that long of a section. And so I think it's just really important that people just stay within their limits there, enjoy that part of it, because that's actually a very enjoyable part of the course. Yeah. In fact, it also offered the most relief from the wind last year. That's where I actually got my recovery, because I was on death's doorstep going up the hill out of Sun City. Yep. Yeah. And when we made the turn onto the first ranch road, I was like, oh, thank goodness. And so I had a chance to recover, but man. So, and the other thing too is the water side. Like, don't skimp on the water bottles. Just take an extra bottle. It's not a big deal. Yeah.
Doing it as many times, the number of times that I've done it, you just take an extra bottle. I mean, that's if anything, if you're getting 10 miles out from the aid station, sure, dump it, whatever. Sure. But chances are you're going to go through it, and you're going to be happy you brought it. Yeah. I've never gone and just been like, you know what, I carried too much water.
Things nobody ever does that ever do. Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, I really, just thinking, like you said, just the views and the stuff when I'm on, when I'm on the trainer or something like that. And like, I just think back to how like beautiful that race is and how open it is. Like, don't get me wrong, the Flint Hills, they're beauty in their own way, and they're open and expansive, but there is like, I just, wanted to thank Eric for putting this race on, because there is something just beautiful about that area of Kansas that, again, unless you're from there, you would never know that place existed, or you'd never even think to go through that section.
Right.
And it's just, like I say, like every time I go there, I see something new. You see the Jitsam Hill, and right before you get to the Medicine Lodge, and you can see it, and it's rising in the background as you're coming across, and you just seeing it, and you're like, yes, I know I have to go on top of that mountain. And then I'm almost to the aid station, because you've been out there for a couple hours now, and it's just that little beacon of like, oh man, it's it's not almost over, but it's almost to an aid station.
Yeah.
So
and I, every time I go down there, it's funny, because like I forget just sometimes how beautiful it is. And I was just in the Gypsum Hills yesterday, and yeah, it's crazy how we can go about our lives here and kind of, at least for me, I can forget, and I get down there and just like, I mean, it's a deep breath. It's just like, a wow, this is amazing. Amazing area.
Yep. And I would say anybody who's doing, the 100K, if you've done the 100K before, jumping up to the 200K, it may sound like a daunting task. And we talk about the wind and the weather and all that stuff, but it really is kind of one of those events that's worth it.
Yeah.
If you can manage to deal with whatever the elements are that day, you're going to come out the other side a changed person.
For sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When we talk about this race, any other context, and Eric, when we talked with you about a year ago, we affectionately referred to this race as the Crucible.
Yeah, because it is shaped like a little bowl. So we call it the Crucible, and it basically it takes you in and it changes you.
Yeah, but in a very good way.
Yeah.
And I say that like it's not to try to intimidate anybody that's thinking about it. Travis, you nailed it. I would say anybody that's done the 100, like, you should definitely go do the 200.
You will not be disappointed. You'd be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, look at what I was missing out on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I originally, when I came up with this, was only going to do, and now this was like 2017 when I was developing it, but I was originally just going to do one distance, and that was going to be the 200, because I didn't want people to associate their experience with the 100, because I knew a 100 I wouldn't get to all the areas I wanted to show them, and I didn't want them, as odd as it sounds, maybe I didn't want them to think that was the area was on the 100K. I mean, you still see some cool stuff. You still see some of the Jip Hills on the 100, but like you guys said, that 200K, you see so much more.
And you really get a taste of what's out there. So
but well, I think too, I can honestly say this, after this race every year, like, this is a really good litmus test for how I think my season's going to go for the remainder of the year, and not even like race season, just riding season. To me, it's a gut check on where my fitness is, and there's no doubt that after this race, I've always come out of this race stronger than when I went into it.
Yep.
And there's just something about it, again, whether it's the wind, the sand, the elements, doesn't really, like, yes, it's a hard course, but it's not impossible. It's not an impossible course at all.
Right.
And it's, it's just, you just have to have the determination to go get it done. So cool.
Good. Anything else you want to add, Eric?
Yeah, just again, as all of us would probably, we can't forget about our sponsors. So if you get on our website, take a look at our sponsors that we have, is they really do help out quite a bit, and so that's one thing. Both locally and some bigger names, and so we just enjoy having their support, getting people down there to Pratt. We've got live music at the finish line. We've got some swag bags for you when you get there. So there's all that. So it's a fun time. This is year 8, which is just amazing.
It's awesome.
It's been going on this long.
Does it seem like it? I was going to say, I bet it doesn't feel like 8 years at all, does it?
No, not at all. Not at all. But when I look back, like, my nieces were out there every year they've been there. And when I think about when we started and the age they were and the age they are now, it's just, it's incredible to watch them grow up, and then, to, again, just hear about the different stories along the way of people's experience during the race and whatnot. So it's been a fun journey for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Now I have to ask, what's the food situation like after the race?
Yeah, so we also include a free barbecue dinner, so you get some of that barbecue. Yeah. As far as drinks, it's all BYOB, but keep it on the down low.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I remember the first year I did this race. I dragged myself across the finish line. I was hurting. It was a rough day, and it was my fault. I didn't have my nutrition for the first 4 hours of the race was not dialed in. And as you know, when you when you miss your nutrition at the beginning of the race, it makes for a very tough end of the race.
It was a very long day.
Very long day. Very, very long day. And all I can remember is like trying to figure out how to eat a barbecue sandwich. Like how am I not eating this right now? I had no desire to eat. I was shutting down. but man, I made it a goal every year since. Like I am going to have that barbecue sandwich. Yeah. I look forward to it. I got to have that pulled pork.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember our first year, and this guy, I mean, just smoked the course. He comes over and like walks right over, just like starts chowing down on, and I'm like,
right.
I could not do that. I would not be, but you're right on that nutrition part. Is I've developed in my experience racing and riding, like how important that is in a race. And I think it is for a lot of newer riders, an overlooked aspect of their race strategy, and how instantaneous you can get results when you are fueling your body correctly. It's amazing. So that's something I work on as well, is just making sure I'm staying up on my nutrition. And what I found is then when I finish the race, I'm hungry for a barbecue sandwich or whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly it. No, that's exactly it. I again, that's what I love about this race is like it will force you to remember to do those things. I mean, it's just one of those things that again, I see it as it's a good way to sort of see where you're at as the season shapes up. It's an excellent time of the year. Great race. So really looking forward to it. I can't wait. It's just a couple of weeks away.
I know.
Yeah.
Weeks away.
I know. I've got an email right now that's kind of in a draft folder that's ready to go out, and just kind of some reminders. I will say this: there's also a lot of extra stuff to do in Pratt that weekend. So if you get on the Visit Pratt Facebook page, that's they've got some stuff on there. If you listen to the podcast that they did, they kind of talk about open range. Plus, there's like a kids fair down at Lemon Park. There's a magician that's going to be at the Barron movie theater, which that's worth going into just to see what a 1930s movie theater in a small town looks like. It's Art Deco. I mean, that's where I grew up watching movies, and you look back and it's like, that's a really cool place. And it's right around the corner from the start finish. And then I think on Saturday night, there's a Beach Boys tribute band playing out at the community college. So
nice.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Lots of easy access. Pratt's a small town. So like even if you're in a hotel, and there's tons of hotels, if you're in a hotel on the east side, theoretically you could ride to the start finish line. It's probably 3 or 4 miles. And you can do it safely. There's a bike route that gets you down there pretty safe. And then, just to go back, our ranch owners is the other thing that I want to have a shout out to as well, because what seems like maybe just 3 ranches is really a compilation of about 7 or 8 different ranches. And so every year I contact those owners, and, at any year they could be like, well, no, I've got something else going on. And so it's, if we do have a change of route, that's, it might be just because of nothing that we did, nothing that the riders did, but just the fact that, well, we've got to adjust because they've got something else going on their land. So,
right.
It's kind of how it goes, but we're real fortunate to have a great relationship with all those ranch owners.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that. Don't let us forget to thank the ranchers. I mean, we ran into one of the ranchers last year as we were heading out of town at the gas station. Just really cool guy, and it's really because of you and because of them that we're able to do this. I mean, again, they're being extremely gracious by offering up, and I think the best part is they get to show off their land. I mean, that's what's really cool about it. And it's just, again, can't thank them enough for their kindness and generosity to let us do this. So very good.
Good.
Anything else?
Cool.
Anything? Nope.
All right.
Well,
We'll wrap it up there.
All
right. Appreciate it, guys.
All right. Thanks, Eric.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Please, if you like what we are doing here, leave a like, rate us, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. It really helps us grow and finds us more SufferSooner squad mates. And remember, when the finish line feels impossibly far away, we don't give up, we push harder, we dig deeper, and we find solace in the knowledge that our suffering is temporary and our resilience is forever.